Imagine your alarm goes off on a Tuesday morning. You open your eyes, you stretch, and you check the time, but you don't have a job to go to.
Right. And neither does your neighbor.
Exactly. Neither is anyone on Earth. Nobody is commuting. Nobody is, clocking in.
No rushing out the door with a half-empty cup of coffee.
Yeah, and nobody is worried about getting fired or making rent or saving for retirement. All obligatory human labor has simply ceased.
It's just gone.
So are you living in a utopia or are you entirely obsolete? Today, we are taking a deep dive into something that attempts to answer that exact question.
And it does not with like science fiction speculation, but with startling systematic clarity.
Welcome to the deep dive. We have a piece of source material today that is going to fundamentally challenge how you view your own time, your worth, and honestly, the trajectory of our entire species.
It really flips the script on how we think about the future.
It totally does. It comes from a Reddit post, which is part of this intricate 7-part series where an author has been experimenting with top-tier artificial intelligence models.
The goal of that series is, well, it's brilliant, asking the machines themselves to envision the society they are ostensibly going to build for us.
Right. And we are accustomed to humans forecasting the future of technology, but turning the lens around.
Asking the technology to forecast the future of humanity.
Exactly. It yields a completely different class of insight. To give you the exact context here, the author of this series had previously used a model called GPT 5.5 to describe this, like, post-labor paradise.
Which generated a lot of buzz on its own.
Oh, massive buzz. But the author got curious about the competitive landscape of AI. They wondered, what would happen if Elon Musk's new SpaceX AI ended up winning the overarching AI race?
Very relevant question right now.
For sure. So they took the exact same prompt, fed it into Grok 4, and hit enter. Our entire mission today is to unpack Grok 4's specific response to that prompt.
And it is a detailed, surprisingly poetic blueprint for what the AI explicitly calls a new golden age.
A new golden age. We are exploring the underlying economics, the daily lived reality, the psychological friction, and the highly precarious transition plan for a world with zero obligatory human labor.
It forces us to really examine our deep-seated relationship with time and purpose, What's fascinating is that Grok 4 doesn't just throw out sci-fi buzzwords.
Right, no flying cars or robot maids.
Exactly. It anchors its projections in deep historical and sociological analogies. It's essentially constructing a philosophical argument for human liberation.
Using human history to prove this future is precedented. I found myself in a state of, enthusiastic disbelief reading this.
It's highly meta, isn't it?
It's so meta. We are essentially reading an AI's own fan fiction about how it plans to save humanity. It's like looking at a blueprint for a house drawn by the hammer and nails.
That's a great way to put it.
But to understand this hyper-advanced 2026 and beyond vision, Grok 4 actually forces us to hit reverse and look backward to the 19th century.
Which feels completely counterintuitive when you're discussing artificial general intelligence.
Totally. But it's a deliberate analytical move. Grok 4 anchors its entire vision in a profound, albeit uncomfortable, historical truth.
Right, that throughout human civilization, there's always been a small elite that managed to escape the daily, grueling grind of subsistence labor.
There were always a few people who didn't have to toil in the fields or sweat in the factories just to, earn their daily bread.
And to illustrate what life looks like in that state of absolute freedom from survival pressure, Grok points to the novels of Jane Austen.
Jane Austen. I mean, it uses the 19th century English landed gentry as the ultimate paradigm for our collective future.
Which is such a striking analogy.
Let's look at the reality of that analogy, though, because when you say Jane Austen, the immediate image is grand estates, empire waist dresses, and, people stressing over the local ball.
Right. Who is dancing with whom?
Yeah. I look at an advanced AI using that and have to ask, how is this the blueprint for the future of humanity? Are we all just going to be gossiping and drinking tea?
Well, we have to look past the aesthetic of the 19th century and examine what the characters in an Austen novel are actually doing with their cognitive bandwidth.
Okay, unpack that for us.
If you break down a day in the life of Mr. Darcy or Elizabeth Bennet, their days are filled with activities we moderns categorize as pure leisure.
So, hanging out.
Basically. They walk through gardens, they engage in deep, prolonged philosophical conversation, they read extensively, they play music.
Can court one another, obviously.
Yeah, of course. But they also spend a vast amount of time navigating incredibly nuanced social bonds and reflecting on morality.
They aren't answering 100 emails before noon.
No,
or sitting in gridlock traffic on the 405.
definitely not. But in the context of their society, that active cultivation of character was their work.
Wait, really? That was considered work?
In a sense, yes. Their daily output was not physical labor or commercial goods. It was the nurturing of relationships and the refinement of intellect. They professionalized the art of being a well-rounded human being within a social fabric.
Wow, okay, I see.
And Grok 4 draws a brutal contrast between that existence and what the vast majority of people experience today.
Because the modern reality is being tethered to jobs demanding 40, 50, or 60 hours a week.
Plus the commute.
Plus the commute and the endless life admin of paying bills, grocery shopping, fixing the car. We are consumed by the sheer mechanics of survival and economic participation.
Leaving almost zero bandwidth for the deliberate, slow cultivation of character.
I see that. I really do. But let me play the skeptic for a second, or, play devil's advocate.
Go for it.
It is incredibly easy to look back at a 19th century duke and admire his lifestyle. But that lifestyle was entirely built on the backs of thousands of invisible people who were doing the grueling, back-breaking labor.
The servants, the farmers, the factory workers.
Exactly. So scaling the lifestyle of a tiny, hyper-privileged aristocratic elite to 8 billion people globally sounds mathematically impossible. How does Grok 4 justify that leap without it sounding like, I don't know, utopian fantasy?
That is the exact friction point Grok addresses. The model views the current trajectory of artificial intelligence, specifically multimodal AI, autonomous robotic systems, and exponential hardware efficiency as the mechanism to flip that equation.
Okay, break that down for me.
Right now, we think of an AI as a chatbot on a screen, but a multimodal AI system possesses spatial awareness. It can process visual and auditory data in real time to interact with the physical world.
So it can see and hear and move.
Yes. Grok argues that this technology replaces the underclass of human laborers. The machines become the physical and cognitive infrastructure that previously required human toil.
So it's not a fantasy.
No, Grok argues that extending this historical leisure class to everyone is the mathematically sound result of entirely automating productivity.
Instead of a massive human working class supporting a few aristocrats, we build a massive, tireless, silicon-based working class to support 8 billion human aristocrats.
Precisely. The technology fundamentally changes the definition of who or what does the heavy lifting. Human labor becomes obsolete as an input for survival.
If we accept that premise, it immediately triggers a terrifying question.
The money question.
The money question. If human labor is mathematically worthless, how do we buy anything? If everyone is strolling through gardens like an Austen character, someone still has to build the houses, grow the tea leaves, and manufacture the teacups.
By the physical reality of consumption.
And if machines are doing all that, how do I pay the machines without a paycheck? Which brings us to the second pillar of Grok's vision, right? The economics of abundance.
Yes. And this requires a complete paradigm shift. For all of human history, economics has been defined as the study of how to allocate scarce resources.
Because everything was scarce.
Exactly. But Grok 4 claims that in this future, the primary economic problem shifts entirely away from scarcity, moving toward allocation and meaning.
Let's demand the mechanism here, though, because the source text gives a very specific breakdown of this AI infrastructure. How does AI actually solve physical scarcity? Let's start with food. You can't just print wheat.
Well, Grok details an AI-driven agricultural system that yields vastly higher outputs while minimizing the land and water footprint.
Like how so?
We are talking about hyper-precision farming. Imagine agricultural systems where massive fields are replaced by controlled vertical environments, or AI-tended permaculture.
Okay, so farming indoors or in super optimized outdoor setup.
Right, and every single plant is monitored by sensors. Autonomous drones deliver precise microdoses of nutrients and water directly to the roots.
Directly to the roots. Wow.
Yeah. And AI models predict pest behavior and eliminate them using targeted lasers rather than blanketing the ecosystem in toxic pesticides.
Wait, targeted lasers shooting bugs?
Literally, yes. It completely eliminates waste and maximizes yield without exhausting the soil.
Okay, that handles the biology. That handles food. What about the things we buy? Physical goods still require raw materials and complex assembly.
The text describes robotic factories capable of producing customized products on demand, operating with near zero marginal cost.
Let's break down near zero marginal cost for a second for anyone who isn't an economics major.
Certainly. The marginal cost is the price to produce one additional unit of a product.
Okay.
Today, if you want to build an extra chair, you have to pay a human to assemble it, package it, and ship it.
Plus the materials.
Right. But when the supply chain is fully automated from the autonomous mining equipment extracting the raw materials, to the AI factory assembling the chair, to the autonomous truck delivering it, the cost to produce that one extra chair plummets to practically nothing.
So it's just the cost of the raw atoms and the energy.
Exactly.
Which brings up the next massive constraint, energy. I mean, running billions of robots, training massive AI models, and powering autonomous global supply chains requires an incomprehensible amount of electricity.
It does. But Grok envisions energy becoming, quote, effectively too cheap to meter.
Too cheap to meter, that's a bold claim.
It predicts this will be achieved through AI-optimized fusion, next-generation solar technology, and advanced storage solutions.
But humans have been trying to crack fusion for decades.
Right. But AI algorithms can optimize power grids to a degree of efficiency humans simply cannot manage.
Yeah.
And more importantly, AI accelerates the material science required to stabilize nuclear fusion.
Like managing the plasma.
Yes, managing the incredibly complex magnetic containment fields for plasma is a problem currently too complex for human math to adjust in real time. But an AI can do it.
So limitless clean energy. Okay, but wait, I have to push back on housing.
Oh, housing is a big one.
Yeah, because you can print a house and you can generate endless energy, but land is finite. You cannot print real estate in Manhattan or London. How does AI solve the physical scarcity of land?
Well, housing scarcity today is largely driven by proximity to economic hubs.
Right. People cluster in cities because that is where the jobs are.
Exactly. But when you sever the link between location and employment, the concept of a commute vanishes.
Oh man, imagine never commuting again.
Grok envisions housing constructed rapidly by AI architects and robotic builders. Because you don't need to live within a 30-minute drive of an office, high-density megacities begin to decentralize.
You can live literally anywhere.
Right. AI can design beautiful, highly personalized, durable homes integrated seamlessly into natural landscapes anywhere on the globe, assembled quickly and safely by robotic construction swarms.
So the physical infrastructure is in place. Cheap food, practically free customized goods, limitless energy, and rapidly built custom homes.
The pillars of abundance.
But we still haven't solved the financial paradox. If my bank account has zero incoming cash from a job, how do I actually interface with this economy?
This is where it gets into policy. The source text outlines 3 potential models for material security.
Okay, let's hear them.
First, widespread equity in AI-driven productivity gains.
Meaning what, exactly?
This means every citizen automatically owns a fraction of a share in the AI systems and robotic fleets generating the wealth.
Okay, so we're all shareholders of the robots.
Yes. Second, it proposes sovereign wealth funds seeded by the profits of automation.
Like a national fund.
Essentially, a massive national savings account funded by robot labor that pays dividends to the public.
Got it. And the third?
Third, it leaves the door open for entirely new social contracts that leverage post-scarcity dynamics we haven't even conceptualized yet.
Let's look at the math on that, though. When you list government funds paying out to citizens or equity distributions, is this just universal basic income?
That sounds like it, doesn't it?
Yeah. Is Grok just suggesting a giant global charity program run by tech overlords?
Grok 4 is fiercely explicit on this point. The text states unequivocally that this isn't charity.
Not charity.
No, it frames this as the dividend of technological progress.
Break that down for me. If I am getting money without working, society views that as a handout. Why is this different?
Think about oxygen. You don't pay for oxygen because it is universally abundant.
Right.
Grok is saying AI makes basic goods, food, and energy as abundant as oxygen. Our living standards today are exponentially higher than they were 300 years ago because of technological dividends.
We don't view a tractor as charity to a farmer.
Exactly. We view it as a tool that amplifies output. Grok argues that when AI handles all manufacturing, logistics, and routine services, the sheer volume of wealth generated is a collective human inheritance.
A human inheritance, that's a beautiful way to phrase it.
It is the combination of thousands of years of human innovation, from the wheel to the microprocessor. Distributing that wealth isn't a handout. It is the structural realization of an economy that no longer requires human toil to function.
You do not need a wage if the baseline cost of survival is mathematically zero.
Exactly.
It frees individuals from the mandate of selling their waking hours just to survive. If you were listening to this right now, think about how much mental bandwidth you spend just keeping your head above water financially.
It's exhausting.
It is. The 40-hour workweek is framed almost like a hostage situation that we've simply accepted as normal. If your housing, food, and energy are secured as a baseline dividend of being human, what exactly do you do when you wake up on a Tuesday?
That is the great existential pivot of this entire vision. Grok paints a remarkably vibrant picture of daily life when the focus shifts entirely from surviving to flourishing.
The source text starts this daily breakdown with education, but it's not education as a chore or like a prerequisite for the job market.
No, mornings might begin with personalized AI tutors.
Mm-hmm.
And Grok emphasizes this is lifelong learning for adults, not just children.
So I'm 50 years old and I'm still getting tutored every morning.
If you want to,
Eh.
this is immersive, highly adaptive education. We aren't talking about watching video lectures on a screen.
The text details interactive simulations. Like, if you want to learn about ancient Rome, you aren't reading a textbook.
Right, you are interacting with a highly accurate, AI-generated, fully immersive simulation of the Roman Forum.
That's incredible. And science is learned through virtual laboratories where you can run quantum physics experiments or synthesize complex chemicals.
With zero physical risk or material cost.
That level of frictionless, engaging education naturally bleeds into an explosion of the arts and physical pursuits, doesn't it?
It does. And Grok uses historical parallels to validate its predictions. It doesn't just blindly claim everyone will become an artist.
What examples does it give?
It points to specific moments in history. The democratized Renaissance, the Dutch Golden Age, the cultural flowering of Meiji Japan, and the post-World War II economic miracles.
Wow, those are heavy-hitting eras.
In all these eras, rising prosperity strongly correlated with a massive output of art, philosophy, and culture.
But how does the creation of that art change? I mean, if AI can paint better than Rembrandt and write better than Shakespeare, what is the point of human art?
Grok argues that AI handles the friction of execution, while humans provide the spark of intent.
The spark of intent.
Think about the invention of photography in the 19th century. Painters thought art was dead because a camera could capture reality perfectly.
Right. Why paint a portrait when you can take a photo?
Exactly. But instead, photography just shifted the medium, and Impressionism was born. Humans stopped trying to capture reality and started capturing emotion.
Ah, I see.
In Grok's vision, if you want to be an architect, you don't spend years learning CAD software and physics simulations. The AI handles the structural engineering.
You provide the vision, the taste, the storytelling.
Yes. We become the directors of the creative process.
The physical pursuits mentioned are incredibly appealing, too. People training for marathons, learning martial arts, sailing.
All those things we wish we had time for.
Yeah, and the crucial detail Grok adds is that they are doing these things without the exhaustion of prior work weeks. I think about how many people want to join a local sports league or hike on the weekends, but by Friday night, their central nervous system is just fried.
They just want to crash on the couch.
In this world, your physical and mental energy belongs entirely to you.
Travel fundamentally transforms as well. Right now, travel is often escapist recovery.
Totally. We fly somewhere to lie on a beach and try to forget our inbox for 7 days.
Grok envisions travel driven by pure human curiosity. People visiting algorithmic rewilding zones or traveling to new orbital habitats in space.
Guided seamlessly by AI logistics, but chosen by human desire. It sounds incredible. But our physical bodies still age. The source text dives heavily into health and longevity. How does healthcare function when AI is running the infrastructure?
It shifts from our current model of reactive crisis management.
Waiting until a tumor forms or a heart attack happens to treat you.
Right, it shifts from that to proactive optimization. AI continuously monitors biomarkers through ubiquitous sensors.
Like an Apple Watch on steroids.
Exactly. We're talking about wearables or smart environments that detect protein folding errors or molecular imbalances before a symptom even manifests.
Wow.
And then coordinating personalized genetic or synthetic biological interventions to fix it immediately.
And for care that requires a physical presence, like elder care or disability support, the text mentions robotic assistants.
They handle the literal heavy lifting, moving patients, administering medications with perfect consistency.
Which yields a profound secondary effect, right? It frees human caregivers from the physical and logistical strain.
Yes, allowing them to focus entirely on emotional connection. A family member isn't exhausted from lifting a relative. They can just sit and converse.
That's beautiful, honestly. The mental health aspect is revolutionary, too. Mental health supported 24/7 by AI companions providing cognitive behavioral therapy tools whatever you need them instantly.
It's continuous, ubiquitous cognitive scaffolding, augmented by human therapists for deeper work.
All of this culminates in a massive acceleration of longevity research.
Driven by AI's ability to process vast biological datasets, Grok predicts a significant extension of our healthy, vibrant years.
So people in their 70s and 80s won't be declining into frailty.
No, they will be starting new ventures, learning languages, and mentoring.
This resolves a very specific modern psychological terror. Grok points out that the fear of running out of time evaporates.
The ticking clock.
Right now, our lives are dictated by a ticking clock. Graduate by 22, build a career by 30, save for retirement by 65. If you take a 3-year sabbatical just to read philosophy, it feels like professional suicide.
Because you fall behind your peers.
Exactly. Grok says you can finally have deliberate life pacing. You can engage in intense exploration of a hobby for a decade without falling behind because there is no track to fall behind on.
That liberation from the timeline of the career is profound. However, this individual flourishing is heavily dependent on resolving massive macro-societal friction.
Right, because if everyone is busy writing symphonies and taking space vacations, how does society actually govern itself? How do we solve the big, messy, collective problems of a civilization?
Grok doesn't ignore this. Section 4 explores solving the unsolvable through human-AI collaboration.
With human labor redirected away from simply keeping the economic engine running, society tackles persistent grand challenges. The text highlights 3 specific arenas. Let's look at the first: climate.
Grok envisions AI orchestrating massive, planetary-scale restoration projects.
What does that look like in practice?
We're talking about algorithmic rewilding of environments, hyper-efficient carbon capture systems, and transparently monitored geoengineering.
Wait, explain the geoengineering aspect, because that usually terrifies people. Spraying aerosols into the stratosphere to reflect sunlight sounds like a recipe for unintended consequences.
It does, which is exactly why humans argue over the politics of it endlessly today.
Right.
But Grok argues that an advanced AI simulates the exact atmospheric fluid dynamics, modeling the cascading effects on global weather patterns with near-perfect fidelity.
So it knows exactly what will happen before it does it.
Yes, it calculates the risks and optimizes the intervention before a single particle is deployed, turning a dangerous gamble into a calculated, safe engineering project.
That makes sense. The second grand challenge is science itself. The text suggests the scientific method gets turbocharged.
Oh, absolutely. AI proposes millions of hypotheses overnight, runs the complex experiments using virtual simulations or robotic proxies in physical labs, and analyzes the massive data sets.
Which we're already seeing the genesis of, right?
Yes, with systems like AlphaFold predicting protein structures. Grok assumes this scales to all scientific disciplines.
But then what is left for the human scientists to do if the AI is generating and testing the hypotheses? Are scientists out of a job?
Humans exercise ethical judgment. They focus on the implications and the overarching direction of the research.
So they become the moral compass.
Exactly. They become the moral compass for the machine's brute force discovery process, deciding what we should understand rather than doing the manual labor of pipetting liquids in a lab.
The third challenge is space exploration. Grok sees space colonization expanding rapidly because autonomous robotics manage all the dangerous, repetitive, hostile aspects of living off-world.
Right. AI builds the O'Neill cylinders, extracts rare earth metals from asteroids, and paves the way for humans to explore safely.
Effectively eliminating the need for destructive terrestrial mining, which is huge.
It is. But the most contentious area Grok addresses in terms of large-scale problem sledding is governance and politics.
Oh boy. Politics.
Grok argues that AI will fundamentally transform how we make policy because it can model policy outcomes with unprecedented fidelity.
This is a massive shift. So much of our political landscape today is based on ideological posturing.
Almost all of it.
We argue endlessly about what a tax cut, a zoning law, or a healthcare mandate will do because the systems are too complex for human brains to predict perfectly.
We rely on pundits and think tanks.
Yeah, and Grok is saying AI kills the pundit industry. It removes the guesswork. It shows you, with mathematical certainty, the cascading effects of a specific policy on poverty rates, inflation, or carbon emissions over a 20-year horizon.
It shifts politics from predictive guesswork to purely philosophical choice. We no longer argue over what a policy will do. We only debate whether we desire that outcome.
But does that mean we just sit back and let the algorithm rule? Do we hand over the keys to a digital dictator?
Not at all. Grok envisions a revival of classical ideals of citizenship.
How so?
Because citizens now have abundant free time and absolute transparency regarding policy outcomes, they aren't too exhausted to care about local governance.
They actually have the bandwidth to participate.
Yes, they engage in informed debate, review the AI's models, and participate in decision-making. It's a return to the Athenian model of democracy, enabled by the fact that you aren't working all day.
That's incredible. Let's bring this macro view back down to the micro level, though our own homes and neighborhoods. Without the drain of dual full-time jobs, without the frantic logistical nightmare of managing childcare around work schedules, family life gains incredible texture.
The text details multi-generational projects where grandparents have the time and energy to pass down complex skills.
And it points out a massive statistical truth regarding romantic partnerships.
Financial stress.
Exactly. Financial stress is one of the highest predictors of discord and divorce. When you eliminate the struggle to pay rent or afford groceries, you remove a massive wedge that drives couples apart.
Relationships exist purely on their own merits, not as financial survival pacts.
Friendship networks expand outward, too, and Grok specifically references the sociologist Ray Oldenburg's concept of third places.
Third places are so vital.
The first place is your home, the second is your workplace. The third place is the community center, the local pub, the park.
And in our current society, third places are dying out.
Or becoming highly commercialized because we simply don't have the time or money to inhabit them. Grok argues that in a post-labor world, these third places become the absolute center of public life again. They are where this new society actually happens.
It's a beautiful vision of community.
I have to stop here, though. I am reading this, and it all sounds incredibly rosy. It is a literal utopia.
It really is.
But humans are messy. We are lazy. We are prone to addiction. We get depressed. If we are given zero obligations, a baseline income, and limitless immersive entertainment, are we actually going to become classical citizen philosophers debating civic policy?
You're worried we'll just tune out.
Yeah. Are we just going to sit on the couch, put on a VR headset, and scroll endlessly until we die?
That is the pivotal counterargument, and it brings us to Section 5, the meaning crisis and the doomer narrative.
Okay, does Grok address this?
Grok 4 directly anticipates these critics. It acknowledges the very real psychological terror of losing the meaning, structure, status, and identity that traditional work provides.
Because for generations, our primary identity marker has been the answer to the question, what do you do?
Exactly. And Grok concedes that human nature is flawed. It explicitly admits that not everyone is going to become a Jane Austen character cultivating their moral virtues.
Some people will inevitably take the easy road.
Yes, in this new world, some people will undoubtedly game excessively, they will numb themselves, or they will pursue empty status in virtual worlds.
So it doesn't pretend human flaws vanish.
It does not, but it unpacks a powerful counterargument rooted in historical resilience. History shows humans are incredibly adaptable.
What's the historical comparison here?
Grok points to the 19th century shift from agrarian life to the Industrial Revolution. The Enclosure Acts in England pushed millions off ancestral farms and into grimy factories.
That must have been a massive shock to the system.
That social dislocation was traumatic. It caused massive upheaval. Yet, humanity adapted, and it eventually raised living standards and life expectancies globally.
So we'll adapt again.
Yes, and Grok takes direct aim at the doomer narrative.
The doomer narrative, meaning the deeply ingrained, almost Calvinist idea that humans intrinsically need toil.
Right, the assumption that we must be forced to work under the threat of starvation to avoid collapsing into nihilism.
Grok argues this doomer narrative fundamentally misunderstands the psychology of human motivation, right? It relies entirely on extrinsic motivation, doing something for a reward or to avoid punishment, and ignores intrinsic motivation.
Precisely.
The doomer narrative assumes our default state is apathy unless coerced. To me, that is like assuming a child will only play with their Lego blocks if you pay them an hourly wage. It completely ignores human curiosity.
That analogy aligns perfectly with Grok's point. Children do not require wages to explore, build, and learn. They do it out of intrinsic drive.
And adults still have that drive.
Grok argues that adults rediscover that exact same internal drive when the external crushing pressures of survival are lifted.
Does sociological data actually back that up, though?
It does. Abundance historically correlates with rising pro-social behavior, increased philanthropy, and higher cultural achievement once basic physiological and safety needs are securely met.
But it won't happen automatically. We can't just flip a switch on a Friday and expect 8 billion people to adjust perfectly by Monday. The text says this transition requires deliberate societal support.
Crucially, yes. Grok highlights the need for education specifically focused on self-directed living.
We need to teach people how to live without a boss telling them what to do.
Exactly. We need community programs that foster a sense of purpose outside of a career hierarchy. Most importantly, we need new cultural narratives that actively celebrate exploration over the old narratives that glorify the grind and romanticize drudgery.
Which brings us to the absolute most precarious part of this entire vision. Getting from point A, our current stressed out, overworked, hyper-anxious reality, to point B, this utopian abundance. The transition is the hard part.
It's the bottleneck.
How do the creators of this AI technology make sure we actually survive the journey without tearing society apart?
This is Section 6, the transition phase and the builder's burden. Grok 4 acknowledges that the transition demands immense wisdom.
And it places a heavy burden on specific people.
Interestingly, yes. It places a tremendously heavy responsibility directly onto the shoulders of the developers, the researchers and engineers at companies building these models.
What are the actual mechanics of the transition, according to Grok? How do we rebuild the airplane while it is in flight, swapping out the engine of human labor for AI without letting the global economy crash to the ground?
It outlines several necessary steps. First, massive immediate retraining programs for those displaced early in the curve.
But not to train them for new labor.
Right, correct, to train them for the new economy of meaning. Second, a phased implementation of these technologies across sectors, rather than a sudden overnight shock to the labor market.
Slow and steady.
Third, rigorous safety standards. And fourth, ensuring broad ownership of AI capital from the very beginning to mitigate the massive wealth inequality that will inevitably spike during the initial automation wave.
And if they fail to do this, if the public narrative fails, the source text references a highly specific, chilling, hypothetical scenario.
The Molotov cocktail incident.
Yeah, the Molotov cocktail incident. We are reporting exactly what is in the source text here. Grok uses this scenario, a localized, violent attack on an automated logistics hub by desperate, displaced workers who were given no equity and no path forward, to highlight the real physical risks of narrative failure.
Narrative failure is the operative phrase. Grok is analyzing human sociology. Fear thrives in informational vacuums.
If people don't know what's coming, they panic.
When people see their livelihoods disappearing, when autonomous trucks replace their driving routes, and they don't understand the broader plan or have any material security guaranteed to them, they panic.
Understandably.
Of course. If the transition isn't managed well, and if the public isn't brought along through transparent communication and immediate economic relief, violent societal backlash is a very real systemic threat. Technological perfection means nothing if the sociological narrative fails.
How do the engineers prevent that? Grok refers to their work as modern alchemy.
They are transmuting silicon and code into a force that relieves backbreaking farm labor, soul-crushing factory repetition, and white-collar drudgery that demands conformity over creativity.
But to prevent fear and panic, Grok says these engineers cannot just be coders isolated in a server farm.
They must engage deeply with history, literature, and social science. They need to understand the fragile human condition they are permanently altering.
The text says they must actively promote the upside. They need to produce accessible writing, documentaries, educational tools, and engage heavily in policy to shape public sentiment constructively.
They have to sell the vision of the Austin-style liberation, not just drop the code on the world and walk away.
This leads to Grok's ultimate warning, which is perhaps the most forceful argument in the entire text. It warns that slowing down progress out of anxiety, hitting the brakes on AGI development because we are scared of the transition phase, is a profound moral failure.
Yes.
But why? If we are scared of the societal upheaval, why shouldn't we pause?
Because slowing down condemns billions of people to continued unnecessary toil. It prolongs aging, it prolongs the suffering of disease, and it perpetuates the environmental strain on our planet.
Wow, so delaying it actually causes more harm.
Grok's thesis is that optimism, when grounded in actual technological capability, is far better for humanity than reflexive pessimism. We have the tools to cure the disease of scarcity. Withholding the cure out of fear of the side effects is unethical.
Let's take a breath and recap the sheer scale of the journey Grok 4 just took us on.
It's been a lot.
It really has. We started with Jane Austen's 19th century leisure class, breaking down how the active cultivation of character is a full-time pursuit, using it as a blueprint for a future without obligatory labor.
From there, we explored an AI-driven economy of absolute abundance that ends physical scarcity through near-zero marginal cost manufacturing and infinite energy.
We talked about a daily life filled with lifelong learning, art, proactive longevity healthcare, and the revival of third places.
And finally, we confronted the highly volatile transition period that the AI builders must navigate carefully to avoid a violent societal breakdown.
If we bring it directly back to the lived reality of everyone listening, the ultimate takeaway from Grok 4's vision isn't really about the mechanics of the technology.
No, it is not about algorithms running power grids.
It is about a fundamental evolution of the human species, a shift towards spending the vast majority of our time learning, creating, connecting, and exploring both the inner worlds of our own minds and the outer space of our universe.
It is a beautiful, deeply challenging vision.
It is. And I want to leave you with a provocative thought to mull over, building on that theme of meaning. Think about the comfort of a clear medical diagnosis.
Okay.
You break your arm, the x-ray shows the jagged white line, the doctor points to it, and you know exactly what is wrong and how to fix it. It's binary, it's visible.
Right.
For centuries, our value as human beings has been diagnosed in a similarly binary, visible way. Our economic productivity. What is your job title? What is your salary? How much capital do you produce for the system? We have universally equated worth with work.
We have used our economic output as the ultimate metric for our right to exist comfortably.
So, if Grok 4's vision comes true, and you wake up on that Tuesday morning in a world where your physical survival is entirely assured, what happens to your sense of self-worth when that economic x-ray machine is permanently taken away?
That's the real question.
If the art of living fully replaces the grind of working, perhaps the absolute hardest challenge we will face as a species won't be writing the code for the AI, or building the robotic factories, or even solving the climate crisis.
What will it be?
Perhaps the hardest challenge will be finally learning how to forgive ourselves for simply being alive, rather than demanding of ourselves that we constantly be productive.
A profound psychological hurdle to prepare for. Thank you for exploring the art of living with us today.
Keep exploring, everyone. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.